Good morning. Predicted Trades family. Hope everybody's doing well. We'll start with a little review of yesterday. We had a nice gap up and push over our zone around 4101, 4108. We opened kind of halfway in between. And that reminds me, let me adjust this so we can see the 100. Because we pretty much open at that daily 100. Yes, push. Yeah, excuse me for a second, sorry. We open near that daily 100, push up to our squeeze top, had a little pullback to that daily 100, just for another reload, and then off and running. From our 100 through our key zone around that 4136, straight on up to the next key level, 4165. It was pretty much a slow grind kind of day, so you really had to take advantage of that retest of the daily 100. If you missed that morning push, some of us shorted from that cloud back to the daily 100, but you really had to be ready to reload there. Those 4150s went from $1.70 to 17. And in fact, I think I had those over here for us to look at. But I've updated the tools. Give me 1 second. And it's just worth reviewing because pretty much dropped right to our beast zone, slight slip below, and then actually, hold on, sorry, 1 second. My settings are all over the place. Here we go, this will look a little better. And a little truer to our beast system. There we go. So as you can see, when an SPX pushed up to their squeeze top and then came back, it was a perfect hold of our beast level on these 4150s, and they went from 1.7 all the way up to 17 for a full 10x on that trade. So anyway, great run up for ES, stopping short at that 4165. I mean, we did reach a little past it, but ultimately closed below it. We already had a nice push for a slightly higher high this morning, but already starting to come back down below that 4165. We have some squeezes now in place, 1 hour and a 30-minute, the top of which is right near that 4165, and the bottom right back at our last key zone, that 4136. So that will be the range for today to watch for the range to break. We do have a daily Keltner right here in the middle at 41.55. Let's see if that daily Keltner can provide support if we open near it to take off back through that 41.65, squeeze tops to get to the next key level, 41.83, 41.90. We do have some economic data coming out today. Let me pull that up. We've got our jobless claims, continuing jobless claims, and trade deficit data coming out at 8:30, so in a few minutes. So let's see if that economic data sends us below this daily Keltner and back down to the bottom of squeezes. And, you know, it's worth noting we held this range, and now we're breaking out of this range. We could potentially need to take a dip to those highs where we kept rejecting, pretty much at the top of this shaded region, which would be the bottom of these squeezes. If we start to give those out, we could vacuum quickly to the bottom of this range to try to find support to bounce below that, the daily 100. So if we start to slip into this squeeze cloud, give out this 41.36, we could drop to that 27.5, the daily 100, and then our key zone in the daily 8. The daily 8 has now caught up over 4100. Nope, sorry, right underneath 4100, but over that 40.87, which kind of was our low for the week that we kept holding. So all things to note. I guess one other thing I was going to point out. Over here on our 4-hour with our moving averages, I talked about this in yesterday's prep, that this week we drifted to the 4-hour 21 as it met that 40.87. We held that and kind of set an IW, and those slow drifts to hit the 21 on any time frame can provide a bounce that gets us higher. So I talked about yesterday in prep, we got that bounce once and twice, so we could break out higher yesterday, and that's what we got. That 4-hour 21 will likely be catching up to the bottom of this shaded region today or tomorrow, if we do start to see another pullback. And it's always worth kind of noting and checking with other time frames following the same principle of the moving averages. So we'll let that load, but basically we'll find that the 30-minute 21 was held overnight and we pushed off of it. So like breaking that 30-minute 21 today could spell a change of direction. Here's that 30-minute 21, ran into it overnight, held it, pushing off of it each time we tap it. So it might be something worth watching today. It's caught up to that 41.55, same as that daily Keltner. So if we slip that daily Keltner, we're also slipping the 30-minute 21, which could mark a change in direction, at least on the 30-minute, which you'll find in that, kind of drift we had this week to get the 4-hour 21. We got below that 30-minute plenty, a couple of times. So all something to note. And we'll move on to NQ. NQ pushed nicely off the daily 100 and off of our little zone here between 890 and 960 yesterday. And NQ was just pretty much the leader. Got up over that second daily Keltner, which has been resistance. Every time we got near it or tapped it, we rejected. Yesterday we tore right through it. So let's see if it becomes some support today at 13,200. It's also the bottom of the 1 hour squeeze that started to form. So if we do take a dip, looking for that to hold to send us higher, with the goal of getting to these key levels above and that psychological 13,500, with that third Keltner sitting right up there as well. Should we start to give out that 13,200, going to be looking for these highs to hold around 13,100. We got to it and reversed a couple of times, tore through it yesterday, so if we give out the 200, looking to hold the 100 so that we don't completely engulf yesterday. But should that give out, we will likely go back to test this 960, this 13,000. Oh, and one other thing to note, coin shared a chart this morning to help point out that we are at a major trend line test for NQ. Come on. This should be showing more. There we go. So if we draw a little trend line here and connect the highs, we are at that trend line now. This would be the trend line, the highs from right at the beginning of the year and that rally that we had in March. Connecting those two, we're starting to arrive at that trend line now. So we could easily get stuffed and start heading back to moving averages, this range that we were stuck in for the first half of the week. But if we can get through, looking to get up to these key levels and this third Keltner. So definitely something to note on NQ. We'll move on to Ready. Ready up over that key psychological 1900. It's also a key level of support earlier in the year. So now we're back over it. Zoomed in a little too much. Come on, there we go. We've also made it above that second daily Keltner. So let's see if 1900, that Keltner can hold and try to send Ready back up through the overnight and yesterday's high in a bid to get up to that 1950 where the third Keltner sits. We start to give out 1900, we could easily slip back to about that 1880 where this daily 8 has caught up to, and that daily 100, basically back into our zone that we've been in this week. YM. Even though the market was strong yesterday and YM pushed with it, didn't even get too high of week. We definitely want to watch this high from Tuesday. Now that we are above it, we have been settling at it overnight. We could go take another test of that during cash session, but ultimately looking for those overnight lows, this high range, you could basically call it 32,700. I'm looking for that to hold if we do take a dip to these squeeze bottoms, in a bid to get back through yesterday's high, back over this 900, revisit Monday's high, and push through this 4-hour squeeze top and that second Keltner. Which is just a few points under that psychological 33,000. If we start to give out, that's 700. We've got the daily 100 a little bit below, but if that starts to give out, probably back to the daily 8 and that first Keltner. Apple. Apple had a nice push yesterday, got over that earnings high, and push for some more, getting up to that 165, 166. Apple is up near the third Keltner, which is starting to get a little overbought. Can we keep trucking? Yes, absolutely. Just because we're hitting third Keltner doesn't mean we have to turn around. But statistically speaking, we are starting to get a little overbought as far as the daily mean. We can keep pushing with the next key zone being up around that 170 psych number, and mainly 171, 172. They create a zone that's very important. It used to be support, then it became resistance. As we review VIX towards the end, you'll find that VIX is kind of only at the second Keltner to the downside, meaning that VIX can go lower and allow us to go past our third Keltner as VIX tries to get down to its third Keltner down. So Apple can keep trucking. If it starts to give out 165, let's see if these highs and that wick, that earnings high, can become support. If we start to give out that like 165.5 squeeze bottoms, they fire down, looking for those highs to support us. And should that give out, then we are likely sliding back to 160. AMD. So on AMD, we had that reaction on earnings, but they only dropped us to the daily 8. And I talked about how that could be considered potentially bullish and how we could snap right back up. We kind of got that yesterday. Back to this zone that we fought above before earnings. So let's see if they're going to let it get through this zone and carry higher, or if they brought it back as a cover to then head lower. If this 30-minute squeeze gives out, likely back to that pullback around 95.5, 96. And should that give out, then we're probably coming back to this daily 8 and 200 in this 93 zone that kind of held us after the earnings drop. But if we can keep trucking through this zone, we've got psych level 100, squeeze tops, and third Keltner up above. Amazon was very strong yesterday, got over that earnings high. And as you can see, it's what we're also trying to settle at overnight and push higher. Already setting a new high. So, Amazon pretty much at that third Keltner. Let's see if it wants to keep trucking, to get to something like a 145 on our way to 150. We are at that third Keltner, so something to be cognizant of. And if we start to give out these highs that we have that are trying to act as support now, call it 139. If we start to give out 139, 138 and a half, we could come back to revisit 135. BA. BA, had a little run yesterday. Basically, we just need BA to not go lower and try to revert to any means. Almost tapped the daily 8 yesterday. Sitting right near yesterday's highs. Let's see if it can get going over this second Keltner and a bid to get back up to this 170, 171. But if it starts to give out like 166, we could slip back to that daily 8, which will likely be stepping up at the bottom of this 2-hour squeeze around 163. So Cat had a nice run into earnings. Looks like not the best reaction to earnings. But we've settled back to this daily 15, 21 and trying to hold that. So they could be bringing it back and settling it and kind of resetting it, since it was almost a third Keltner on that pre-earnings run. So this could be a good springboard to head right back up. If we start to lose and fire the squeeze to the downside, Likely coming back to that first Keltner 178, 176 where these lows were. And we also have that second Keltner at 172. If we can hold squeeze bottoms and get through top, you know, it's a bid to get back to at least this 189, 188. And then through that, fill in the gap back up to 193 and that daily 50. Excuse me, on Google, very strong yesterday. Getting through the week's highs over that second Keltner. I'm sorry, over the first Keltner. And already setting some new highs pre-market. Looking like it wants to try to lead. Almost back to its daily 100. About this 119.5. We have second Keltner, just past that at 121, and the top of this daily squeeze. So, as long as it can hold and stay above 117, can try to push through 119, 120, 121 to get up to test all these levels. If we can keep trucking past that, we've got that third Keltner up at 125. If we give out that 117, likely it could slip back to that 115 where that daily 8 will be stepping up to maybe 115.5. GS helped out yesterday. Got up and set a new high of the week before coming back. Looks like it might be gapping down ever so slightly, so not a real interest here. If it loses 330, could likely get back to the bottom of this 4-hour squeeze and this daily 8. If it gets going to the upside, looking forward to get back to yesterday's high, 335. Trying to push to this squeeze top around 336.7. And a bit to get to that next Keltner up around 340. Yeah, JPM pretty weak in comparison. Not a ton of interest here. Hit the bottom of higher time frame squeezes and caught a nice bounce yesterday. But again, not a ton of interest here. It's not been acting very strong in comparison to other things. Meta had a nice move yesterday, got through that 4-hour squeeze, firing it to the upside. Made it back to the daily mean in the middle of this daily squeeze. If we can hold the mean and try to push first to this daily 50 at 172. First Keltner up, 175. If we can get past that, you know, we're trying to get up to this daily squeeze top. If we come back and start to lose the mean in this daily 8, we could head right back down. Microsoft. Good earnings. Got over daily 100. Held that on Tuesday. And then had a nice push yesterday through the week's highs. Holding those overnight in pre-market. So as long as we can continue to hold those highs around 281. Maybe as low as 280, but as long as we can hold that, we can keep trying to push through yesterday's high, that second Keltner, in a bid to get up to that third Keltner and closer to that psychological 300. Netflix. A lot of stack squeezes right near the top. Let's see if it can get going into those squeezes in this week's highs. But if it starts to reject and loses 226, we could be heading back to that daily 8, likely around 222, 223. And then that 4-hour squeeze bottom at 220. NVIDIA decently strong yesterday. Had that gap down in sympathy with AMD. Gave a little dip to that daily Keltner daily 8. Didn't quite tap him. But then went back and engulfed the previous day in that gap down on the AMD reaction. Already set a new high and looking like it wants to try to hold this week's highs. So I'd say keep an eye on Monday's high around that 188, as long as that can hold. We do have a little, looks like a 30-minute squeeze forming around 187.5. So looking for that to hold, to continue to send us higher. In a bid to get to that daily 100 up above at about 194. And that third Keltner that's up at 197. And that psychological 200. QQQ. QQQ. Open right at our key level. Pushed right up to the top of our squeezes. 4-hour squeeze, I believe. Yeah. Gave a pullback to our second key level there at that 317.75 for a tap before just trucking and taking off higher past 320, 322. Even tapped about 324 yesterday. Almost. Already got through 324 this morning and still remaining strong. Even after that economic data that just released around 8:30, looks like it's not really having that much effect, and we're still continuing this uptrend. So today on Qs, see if it can get over 324 and sustain itself, turning 324 into support. On a bid to get back to this daily Keltner, which will be stepping up around 328, and that psychological 330. If we start to give out or reject and come back, looking for 322, 321 to hold. Should that start to give out, we can likely come back to this zone. On Qs, let's go to SPX. So now we have another gap from yesterday that should worth marking. Fought up over that 41.50 just a little and held it into close. Obviously going to be gapping up a little, about 10 points. The key levels above on SPX for today, if we do keep trucking, 41.80, 85, 41.95, psychological 4,200. And, you know, we've got a couple past that. That second Keltner likely going to be around 42.20. Oh, I'm sorry, third Keltner. But we do have some stacked levels here in that third Keltner. So if we can keep pushing, this is where I think we're heading. And this could be where we kind of stall out and start to come back. Since it is third Keltner, we are a little overbought. If we start to lose, say 41.50, likely can take a dip back to these highs on the week, around 41.40. Looking for that to hold. If they give out, then we're probably coming back to that daily 100 and that 41.20 level. SPY. So now that we're above that 414, that's a very key level. We got to it and through it yesterday, holding it overnight, so it needs to continue to be support. We can slip it enough just to tag this squeeze bottom, but if we reject it once back underneath it, you know, we could easily roll back. Got that daily 100 back at 410. But if we can hold that 414 and keep moving through 416, looking to get back to that 418 zone above. And past that, our third Keltner is arriving at around 420. Tesla. Oh, Tesla did not do much yesterday. But today is the shareholder meeting where they'll vote on if there's another stock split. And as you can see, it's gapping up and looking a little strong this morning, setting new highs on the week. Looking like it wants to hold 930 and push to that 950, 965. Some key levels I have above on the way to get to that 1,000. That'd be maybe a hair past a full ATR if Tesla did try to get to 1,000 a day. Looking more like 960, 965 as a full ATR. So let's see what Tesla gives us today. If it starts to give out 930, back to 918, and if that gives out back to 900, likely for a test. And we've got that that shareholder meeting today, likely after the bell. Let's see how they vote on this stock split. VIX. Let's see. We talked about yesterday if we're going to see a good rally day and upside. VIX had to get back below 23, reject this daily 8, get down to and below 220 and a half, and a bid to get down to 220, or 22 and a half, and a bid to get down to 22. So we got that yesterday. After, rejecting the daily 15, rejecting the daily 8, we head back lower. We are only at that first Keltner, really, a little bit below it. So this is what I was talking about. Can we keep trucking past the third Keltner on names and on indices? We could, just so that VIX can get lower to its second Keltner, maybe even its third Keltner, and that huge key number of 20. If VIX does continue down there, we can keep rallying higher. But for today, if we're going to see continuation to the upside, ideally would like to see VIX rejecting this 30-minute squeeze top that's forming. Rejecting that 22. Heading back down to that squeeze bottom in yesterday's low. Giving that out to get to that 21.5. Ultimately to get down to and below 21 and test this daily squeeze bottom and that second Keltner, which is 20.5. So if we'll see continuation and upside in the market, looking for this to reject and continue to make an H and head lower. But if it holds this, call it 21.5, gets back through 22 and starts trucking back to 22.5 and that daily 8, we could see a little downside. I mean, it's pretty clear. Like, we've come down, hit here. If we're going to roll back over after that rally from yesterday, we're going to scoop right back up. But if we can continue on the rally from yesterday, we should reject and head back lower. But those are the key levels I'll be watching on VIX. And that wraps up prep. Hopefully this was helpful for everybody. Thanks for tuning in. If you're new to Predicted Trades, Thursdays are our free days. You can join our server for free. You only have access to certain section. And on Thursdays, we bring our entire room into the free section so that you can test everything out, even test out our tools before you make the leap and purchase a subscription. So if you're new, definitely come join our server. Definitely come enjoy free days on Thursdays where you'll hear our entire room and voice chat calling everything out. And you'll be able to trade with our traders. But thanks for tuning in. Hope this was helpful. Good luck today, and we'll see you in chat.